Hey sports fans, this is Lily King. Make sure you tune into Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Quarles.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Boy, you know what that sound means. The Dreamweaver, our own good friend of the show, Matt Weaver from Peaks.com, the guru of IU football. Matthew, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys?
Good. Hope you're having a good spring. Are we ever going to have spring? Man, this weather is killing me.
Yeah, it's been brutal. It looks like it's supposed to get nice this weekend, but at least up here where I live on the north side of Indy. But it's been an awful awful spring as far as weather.
It certainly has, but it hasn't been a bad spring for Coach Allen and the Indy football team. Landed another guy that could be a difference maker. Brian Parker. A lot of people compare him to Luke Timian or the Mitchell Page, that kind of a receiver or offensive output.
Yeah, I mean it's a preferred walk-on, which I mean obviously, people hear walk-ons and think a guy that's not going to do much because they're not a scholarship player. But a lot of these guys, Luke Timian was a walk-on, Mitchell Page was a walk-on, and to say that he's going to be those guys is, it's hard to that's putting a lot on him. But I think he does have that potential. I mean, he's kind of similar in build, similar athletically. He's going to be that slot guy, and it's the best way to, I've said all the time, the best way to improve your football team is to improve the competition, and that's what this does. I mean, this makes everybody better. This kid's going to come in and he's going to come in like he is going to going to have a chance to start, and that's how he's going to perform, and that's how he's going to work, and it's going to make everybody else better on that team, whether he does or not. Even if he doesn't, a guy like that makes your team better just by the way he does stuff on the practice field and not in the games. So this is for as far as a walk-on, this is a really nice pickup.
And Coach Allen has really been using that competition to try to build this team. But you look at the quarterback room; you got some great quarterbacks that will be battling, and Michael Penix and Jack Tuttle, along with the incumbent Peyton Ramsey. But that you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's something that Indiana has not had a lot of. They didn't have that depth at position, so they didn't have that competition stirring in practice to pushing each other to get better. And without that, it's kind of hard for as a team to improve without guys pushing each other.
Yeah, and Coach, I got the chance to meet with him in his office this week, and he actually kind of talked about that a little bit, especially on the defensive side of the ball. When he came in, you had Tigray Scales, and obviously Tigray was a fantastic player. I mean, he was an All-American, but there was nobody behind Tigray. And if Tigray would have been a guy that didn't really, kind of dogged it or didn't push himself, they would have been in real trouble because they didn't have, you didn't have, the old saying, the bench is the greatest motivator. And like Coach Allen said, we didn't have anybody on the bench. Luckily Tigray was awesome. We didn't have to worry about him, bringing it all the time. But, now, if a guy doesn't bring it, he's not playing. I mean, there's legitimate competition at every spot on this team. And, the depth's never perfect. It's probably never exactly where you want it to be, but it's as good as it's ever been in Indiana, at least what I can remember on both sides of the ball. As far as each position and O-line, maybe have a few more guys. But, all in all, the depth on this team has really been improved dramatically.
Yeah, if you listen to the show, I was one of the first people to really question the hire of Tom Allen when that was done, but man, I'm also been the first person to praise what he has done, especially on the recruiting side. It's phenomenal. It's a great story at Peaks.com. Go check that out. In which Matt sat down with Coach Allen and talked about a lot of different things. Talks about how that the recruiting pitch is resonating because obviously it is. They're killing it on the recruiting trail. But he tells a couple stories, especially one with Tywan Mullen, that really was really cool. And it really explains on these guys that are coming in from outside of Indiana that don't have a connection connection to Indiana, to the school, to the university in any way, but yet are really connecting to the program and to the school.
Yeah, and for people, the Taiwan Moulton story, he visited, and I think this was probably one of his official, I don't know if it's official or unofficial, but when Coach Allen was hired, he mentioned 50, 26, and 10, because that was in 2017. 50 years since Indiana had been in a Rose Bowl, 26 years since they'd won a bowl game, and 10 years since they'd had a winning record. And Taiwan came in, and they were in his office, and he asked him for a piece of paper, and he wrote down those numbers, and told Coach Allen, we're going to do all three of these things when I'm here. And then he signed it and dated it and committed to him. And this isn't a kid that, didn't have offers. I mean, Taiwan Mullen is one of the top defensive backs in the state of Florida, which means you're one of the top defensive backs in the country, because if you're one of the best players in Florida, you're one of the best players in the country. I mean, this is a really good player. I mean, he's a heck of a player. I've gotten to know Taiwan a little bit through the recruiting process, and he has become one of my favorite guys that I've ever dealt with. He is a great kid. I think he's going to be special. And on and off the field, I think this is going to be one of these guys that Indiana fans are just going to love to root for, because the way he plays and the way he'll represent the university. And they did a great job recruiting him. And obviously comes from a good family. His older brother got drafted, last month. He's got a younger brother who I've heard is they think that could be better than both of his older brothers, which is saying a lot because they're both really good. So athletic family and great kid, great work ethic, and you can't say enough good things about Taiwan. Well, is he going to struggle at times as a player? Sure he is, but I'll tell you what, he is going to be. I think he's going to be a heck of a player for the Hoosiers.
And to point that out, recently Coach Allen goes to Detroit and steals one from Michigan and some other big time programs as well. And so that is really moving forward. And you also point out in a great piece, like you said, go to Peaks.com to see Matt's piece on this where he sits down with Coach Allen. But flipping Samson James, they go to Ohio State last year. They get beat by Ohio State. He had committed to Ohio State. He's an Indiana kid. And after that game, he flips to Indiana, which – man, that's still one of the things that sticks out to me. I'm like, how do you go lose to a team where this kid's committed, a top program, and get that guy to flip? It's just a pretty daggone impressive recruiting job.
Yeah, well, and what that tells me is, one game a lot of times I don't think has a big. I would guess that obviously Samson had been thinking about that for a little while. And maybe when he went over that weekend, I don't know, maybe whatever conversations he had with Ohio State, maybe it kind of solidified the fact that in his mind he wanted to go somewhere else and go to Indiana. And that's another thing in the story that Coach Allen, and I've said this on the Peaks board for years. It is easier in a lot of cases for Indiana to get a high 3-star, even a 4-star kid from the southern part like Florida or somewhere than it is to get one from Indiana, because kids in this state are growing up with the old thing that Indiana's not any good and why would you go there. It's kind of battered in their head, but down there that's not how the IU's viewed. They're viewed as, hey, it's a Big Ten school, that's big time, that's a great opportunity. So you got to still change that perception in state. I think they're doing it. They're definitely doing it. It's easier to recruit in state than it was obviously 5-10 years ago, but they still got some barriers to break through. And the only way you're going to do that, quite honestly, is to win some games on the field, make some bowl games, and then that'll change that perception. But this staff is doing it. They're doing a great. I mean, we talk about it. They are doing a fantastic job. You're not going to win every recruiting battle. In fact, you're going to lose more than you win. And that's the way it should be. If you're hearing yes more than you're hearing no, you're not recruiting the right players. I think Bill Self said that, and he's 100% correct. So, but they're going to win their fair share. And obviously the 2019 class was terrific, and the 2020 class is off to a really good start.
Yeah, it's amazing when you have to go away from home to have more success. But you talked about that perception. But not only are they going away from home, they're going to some pretty hotbed recruiting places. I mean, they're drawing from some good places in the South. Of course, Coach Allen's got relationships from previous stops down there. They've really worked the Florida angle, which tons of talent comes out of the South. But for them to have such a higher standing down there, it's almost funny. But like you said, those guys have no perception. They don't see Indiana in this light of that light. They see him very highly. And so, but these guys are all looking forward to being a part of this change. It seems like they want to be a part of changing the Indiana football program. And you can't buy that kind of backing.
No, that's
no pun intended.
I think that's what attracted Samson James. That's what attracted Tywone Mullen. That's what attracted Rashawn Williams, the guy that's committed for the 20 class. And that's probably the case for a lot of other guys. Going in and I get why a guy would want to go to a big school that's been winning, and you just kind of they put you in there and they plug you in and they keep winning. But some guys kind of want to be that guy that does something that's maybe never been done or turn something around and build something up, from, where it was to make it really successful. And, that appeals to some guys. That doesn't appeal to everybody. And that's fine. You got to find the right guys for your program. And, that's what this staff has done. And they're not just finding guys who want to do that. They're finding guys who have legit options. It's not like Indiana was their best. In basically almost every case, it wasn't like Indiana was their best option or their only Power 5 or Big Ten option. These guys have a lot of options. They can go. Obviously we're talking about the big name guys, but if you go through the class, all these guys had options. I mean, they could have played at some other good schools, and they chose the Indiana for whatever their reason was, and it just shows how well not just Coach Allen, but his staff it's a really good recruiting staff. I mean, they're the foot soldiers. They do kind of all the grunt work, and obviously the plan comes down from him, but without them, this wouldn't be possible. And then obviously he's kind of the closer, as all head coaches are, but they work great together. They recruit as an entire staff. These players get to know everybody. And they really they practice what they preach: the family atmosphere, the relationships, and all that kind of stuff. They live it. They just don't talk it. And I think that's as he said, that kind of stuff resonates with these recruits and their families.
Everything is important when it comes to recruiting, including window dressing. And IU is going to have some new digs. They really upgraded their locker rooms for the upcoming season, something that the basketball program was able to do and some other programs. But now the football team's getting into it, catching up, and looks pretty nice.
Yeah, he had, and I think there might be some. I think there might be some drawings online somewhere. Renderings, and they're probably not. Those were I think some of those were initial, so there'll be some slight changes or tweaks. But he had all these on these stands, all these pictures in his office, and it looks fantastic. And from somebody who knows what the locker room looked like a number of years ago as a manager, and to see it now, it's night and day. I mean, you're talking basically they went from a high school locker room when I was there. I mean, they had metal lockers. I mean, it was not good. And it's been proof since then, but this new locker room, this has now put you on par with basically your peers, a lot of your peers in the conference, the teams that you need to be on par with. And it looks like it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be spacious. And then it's not only just a locker room. They're going to have a team room. They're going to have I think he said they're going to have like a Pop-A-Shot and pool table, stuff like that. Stuff that those guys, when they're in there, they can hang out. I mean, that's important. That's where you build your chemistry and the team bonds, doing stuff like that. I mean, it seems, kind of trivial or not a big deal, but, you got guys hanging around and they start to form those really tight relationships and friendships and all that. And, that's when you play hard for each other. And I mean, that kind of stuff, it seems little, but it all adds up and helps build a winning team. So it looks fantastic, and kudos to Indiana. And obviously Terry Talon, the former IU player who donated a large check for it. Kudos to them for getting this done.
He's got a great piece at Peaks.com. Go check it out. Matt Weaver, man, I cannot thank you enough. We appreciate you so much, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me. Take care, guys.
Hey, thanks for listening to the rebroadcast from today's edition of Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, the only daily show dedicated to Indiana University athletics. You can catch us live each weekday on IndianaSportsBeat.com, TheDailyHoosier.com, GrowingTruth.com, or go to Spreaker.com for live notifications. Yeah, that's speaker with an R, SPREAKER.com. You can also catch the entire show any place you listen to a podcast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, etc. You can find and follow the show on Facebook or follow me on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers. Thanks again. I hope you have a great day. I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.